paving it before the lights start blinking.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, hello again. I'm Carla Verbeck. I live at 802 Barger. After a neighborhood meeting at my home last week, I have been asked to come and speak to you again in regards to the East Bank paving project that is part of a grant and a larger project that the city of Silverton is proposing. I am pleased to hear that several of the council members have serious reservations, including the mayor. I am not pleased that the council is convinced to allow the hiring of the project delivery group to make a design for this paving plan. I live at the intersection of Cowing and Barger, the proposed trailhead for this paving. Every neighbor I have spoken to has been opposed to this project. That includes 8 households adjacent to the path. Every member of the public who has testified here has been opposed. I believe the will of the community is clear. We do not want the wooded path from Cowing and Salamander Island to the end of Hicks Street to be paved. To pave this path requires a major reshaping of the landscape. To widen the existing path to 8 feet and then to pave it will require prepping an area 12 feet wide. It will require heavy equipment to level the hills on either side of the culvert that drains right into the creek. It will require a great deal of rock to make a stable base for that paving. My neighbor Lynn Troxel, who lives adjacent to the path, and several friends walked the path yesterday holding an 8-foot-long 2x4 in front of them to see if it was possible to extend the existing path to 8 feet without hitting a tree. It isn't. To pave this path will require cutting the very trees that make it so enjoyable. It degrades a community resource that already exists, namely a forested path with wood chips and shredded bark, alive with wildlife, that connects the South Water Street neighborhood to the pool, the library, and downtown. Construction and paving will forever alter the entire area. In the master plan of Silverton, and I quote, creek protection is required as a part of the project design to maintain water quality and wild animal habitat. And that is quoted twice in the master plan. Habitat along the path has already been severely degraded by the unannounced destruction of brush, trees, and plants by the city in July. It will not be possible to construct a new path without runoff into the creek. Loss of more trees and brush will force the small remaining wildlife out of the area altogether, a result at direct odds to the master plan. It has been suggested that the South Waterfront neighborhood is selfish and unsupportive of handicapped persons, and that we don't want to share our nice little area. You can't see the creek from the path.
I'm sorry, your time has run out.
Then I'll submit the rest of this in written.
Okay.
I have a question for Ms. Rebecca, or statement rather.
Sure.
Just please let the group of homeowners know that you represent, that I can't speak for anybody else, and they may after I do, but I'm very concerned about going beyond the design stage of this, as I think was quoted in the newspaper and I said publicly. I was willing to go forward with design specifically to see if there was reduced scope options, such as the one that you, I think, presented a couple of months ago, and if there were surfacing options that weren't paving or that the neighborhood would be willing to look at if we went that far. But by no means has anybody ordered a tractor to head down there yet and start doing anything. So that's a ways away.
Thank you. I'm very concerned that once you see the pretty picture, it will be more difficult to stop.
Don't leave yet. I want to ask a few questions of the Public Works Director. After you presented the material several months ago, I went down and took a walk and talked to some folks. I have a couple questions. I know the 8 feet wide path is in part because of emergency vehicles getting on. Is that correct?
There's a an access point off of Cowing Street where emergency services had requested that they be able to get access down to Salamander Island. They have had to respond to emergencies down there. What we were going to do is just maintain the path width and install a removable bollard so they have access to it.
Okay, now, when I walked down the path, it occurred to me the path could be narrower as long as there was landscaping that permits a vehicle to drive down the path with one side on the path and one side off the path. Is that seriously considered?
We haven't actually looked at the type of materials yet. We're going to be holding an open house on November 30th and also a council work session on January 9th that brings forward all the proposals of different materials, the widths, and what that would look like, and along with costs too.
Okay, so all this information is still up in the air.
Correct. Right now all they're doing is the topographic survey work and the preliminary design. We'll get to about a 30% set of plans and then bring that forward to the community and the council for their review before we press forward.
Okay. How does that make you feel? Uncomfortable still?
Very. I'm not thinking that once the plans are that far, taking from what is happening to Mill Street, once not Mill Street, I beg your pardon, the Main Street problem, once plans were done, once open houses are done, it is more difficult to stop a train once it starts rolling.
Okay.
My community is firmly and absolutely and unanimously opposed to this.
Okay. I was going to wait to council comments to say that the planning folks, the planning committee, and the planning staff now are embarked on a process of trying to get more community input at the very beginning of the process. And I think this is an opportunity, though the train has not left the station yet, I guess is a fair statement. This is something that the city has become increasingly sensitive to because of the Main Street situation. And I encourage you to keep in there and keep swinging. Okay.
Well, Councilor Walker, and I guess I'm a little confused, and I realize you were absent at the last meeting, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt here. But we are holding an open house, and we are gathering information, and we're going to hold a work session to discuss it. So I don't see how we're not getting community input and involvement on a plan that's listed in our Trails Master Plan, our Coolidge McLean Master Plan, which all received community input as well. So I've not stated anything really either way on all this, but there is a process to gather community input and to not go down a public process, which is what I've advocated for months and months. I always keep talking about process. I wish to express concern.
Councilor Thomas, I was following on what the Public Works Director said in terms of the process coming up. And the implication I took from his statement was there's a lot of room for adjustments of things. And the other thing I was talking about was that the planning board and Steve Kay, the planning director, have commenced a series of meetings to encourage citizen involvement early on in the processes for planning changes. And I think it's a very good thing they're doing. And, so I'm letting our witness know that there's a heightened sensitivity to incorporating the citizens' concerns into our plans.
Thank you. I understand better.
Thank you.
I guess one other thing that I should point out is that the community that you represent is the property owners there near the creek. And
adjacent to the proposed path, yes,
right.
All the way along.
And our problem is the community that we represent is all 9,500 people in Silverton, many of whom and look upon the creek as a community resource. And we want to figure out a way to amicably share your backyard with them so that everybody gets the benefit of it. And it may be that that doesn't happen this time around. It may be that it's not practical to do that. but our responsibility is to look out for the best interests of the whole community and take your interest into account at the same time. Nobody wants to have probably a 4-lane highway, a nuclear waste dump, or a attractive nuisance in their backyards. We're going to work really hard to be sure that none of those 3 events occur for you.
I appreciate that. When the brush mowing was done in July without any notice at all, it kicked up quite a bit of community displeasure with the lack of community input or involvement before the project ever even started. It's already started. It started back then.
Mm-hmm. And
So we have no problem sharing the creek. We never would say, it's ours, you can't have it, if you're in a wheelchair, go away. And that's just selfish. But we aren't. There are beautiful places to go along the creek that are already paved, like the one behind the library. There's beautiful places under the trees, already paved in Coolidge McLean. No problems. This path is used by people that want to walk in a wooded setting, on the little wood chips, enjoying the birds. It's just a different park. There are many parks in Silverton. They're all different in nature. This one is a primal nature sort of park. We just don't want it to look like it's in Beaverton. We prefer it to look like it's in Silverton.
Okay. And although I did not sign the order to do anything in July, I personally apologize for what happened.
Thank you. I appreciate your concerns. We all do.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in public comment? Mr. Pfeiffer?